As demonstrations continue across the country, in Washington the people are allowed nowhere near the People's House anymore. There is now this new ring of high fencing installed yesterday and today, fortified by concrete barriers at the base. They have now expanded out from just Lafayette Park, an extension of the crowd removal effort, really, that started with chemical dispersants and weapons and clubs on Monday. Well, today, the Attorney General, Bill Barr, who ordered this move to allow for the president's photo op in front of the church, originally tried to defend the action.
The president asked me to coordinate the various federal law enforcement agencies. We decided that we needed more of a buffer to protect the White House and to protect our agents and Secret Service personnel. There were projectiles being thrown, and the group was becoming increasingly unruly. The operation, they were asked 3 times if they would move back 1 block. They refused. I think the president is the head of the executive branch and the chief executive of the nation, and should be able to walk outside the White House and walk across the street to the Church of Presidents. I don't necessarily view that as a political act. I think it was entirely appropriate for him to do. I did not know that he was going to do that until later in the day, after our plans were well underway to move the perimeter.
So you heard the man. Chemical dispersants aside, the president should be able to walk across the street. The AG also said the government is now investigating those who he accuses of sparking violence at various protests.
I do think it's important to point out the witch's brew that we have of extremist individuals and groups that are involved. We have evidence that Antifa and other similar extremist groups, as well as actors of a variety of different political persuasions, have been involved in instigating and participating in the violent activity.
On another front tonight, another prominent retired military officer is speaking out against Trump's response to the protests and raising alarm about his legacy as president. Retired 4-star Marine Corps General John Allen once commanded all U.S. forces in Afghanistan. He has written in Foreign Policy that Trump's actions in recent days, quote, may well signal the beginning of the end of the American experiment. Former Trump Defense Secretary James Mattis broke his silence, as you know, yesterday with that strong rebuke of the president, accusing him of dividing Americans, being a threat to our Constitution, in fact. In an interview with the Washington Post, former Trump Chief of Staff John Kelly, also happens to be a retired Marine Corps general, defended the former defense secretary and refuted Trump's claim that he fired Mattis, who actually resigned back in 2018. Tonight, Trump responded saying Kelly, quote, didn't know I was going to fire James Mattis, nor did he have any knowledge of my asking for a letter of resignation. He went on to say his former chief of staff was not in my inner circle. There was some support on Capitol Hill today for the former defense secretary.
Well, General Mattis's letter was stunning and powerful. General Mattis is a man of extraordinary sacrifice. He's an American patriot. He's an individual whose judgment I respect.
And Republican Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski took it a step further.
I thought General Mattis's words were true and honest and necessary and overdue.
Can you still support President Trump then? Is that something you're struggling with?
I am struggling with it. I have struggled with it for a long time.
As you might imagine, that caught the president's attention. Tonight, he posted in part, quote, few people know where they'll be in 2 years from now, but I do. In the great state of Alaska, which I love, campaigning against Senator Lisa Murkowski, said it doesn't matter who the candidate is as long as they have a pulse. And that may be why most of the rest of the Senate Republicans had so very little to say on this today.
General Mattis called the president a threat to the Constitution. Do you agree?
As I respect General Mattis, he has every right to express his opinion.
Let me ask you a couple questions.
No.
Do you agree with Mattis?
I actually haven't read it yet, so.
I haven't seen it.
I think the president is actually working towards uniting the country.
I think by just blaming the president, he's only looking at half of the equation.
Despite, let's call it, continued Republican Senate support, the New York Times reports growing alarm within the Trump campaign about plunging poll numbers and concerns about his standing in critical states like Ohio and Iowa, states that he carried by pretty wide margins 4 years ago. NBC News reporting Trump met with his top political aides and advisors in the Oval Office this afternoon. One person familiar with the conversations, as they say, said the discussion was about the very concerning internal polling in what should be reliable Republican states.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.